It began on a crisp, ordinary morning. The skies over New York were a clear blue, the city bustling with its usual hum of activity. Then, without warning, the first blast of alien weaponry shattered the calm. An explosion ripped through the heart of Manhattan, sending skyscrapers crumbling to the ground like sandcastles in a storm. A strange, pulsating light spread across the sky, casting an eerie glow over the city. People screamed as they ran through the streets, trying to comprehend the terror unfolding around them. The iconic skyline was quickly obscured by massive, dark ships descending from the heavens, their sleek, otherworldly shapes unlike anything human engineers had ever conceived. It didn't take long for the world to realize this was no ordinary invasion. The invaders didn't land with giant foot soldiers or tanks. No, they hovered above, unleashing devastating pulses of energy that obliterated anything in their path. New York City was the first target, but it was clear this was just the beginning. Other cities around the globe, London, Paris, Tokyo, were soon facing the same fate. Across the world, governments scrambled to respond. Military leaders attempted to mobilize their forces, but it quickly became apparent that humanity was ill-prepared for such an advanced threat. Fighter jets raced to intercept the alien ships, but their weapons had no effect. A dozen planes were incinerated in seconds as the alien vessels deployed a strange gravity-warping weapon that turned their own momentum against them. Earth's defenses were utterly useless. But in the midst of the chaos, something unexpected began to happen. The resistance, though unorganized and under-equipped, started to form. It wasn't in the form of a singular army, but rather small, scattered pockets of people, ordinary citizens, engineers, and soldiers, who were determined not to go down without a fight. One such group gathered in an underground bunker in the heart of the city. Among them was a young teacher, Sarah, who had just been caught in the middle of the attack while picking up her child from school. Her instincts kicked in, and she led a group of survivors to an abandoned subway station, where they found shelter. With little more than scraps and ingenuity, they began to strategize. Meanwhile, across the ocean, General Michael Reed of the U.S. Army found himself in the middle of a nightmare. From his command center, he watched as the alien ships systematically destroyed military bases and communication hubs. His first instinct was to mount an immediate counteroffensive, but after witnessing the terrifyingly advanced alien weaponry, he knew that humanity was outmatched. And yet, in the pit of his stomach, he knew this battle wasn't over. The invaders might have the power to destroy, but humanity had something they didn't: a will to fight, to survive, no matter the odds. As the first wave of alien attacks continued, a whispered question began to circulate through the human survivors. Can we win this? No one had an answer, but there was a new resolve in the air. Humanity might be on the brink of extinction, but it wasn't going down without a fight. The invasion had only just begun. As the alien ships loomed ominously above, humanity's survival instinct kicked into overdrive. Across the globe, the resistance took shape, not in the form of an organized military, but through a diverse mix of unlikely heroes. They came from all walks of life: teachers, scientists, soldiers, and civilians, ordinary people thrown into extraordinary circumstances, each realizing they were the last hope for Earth. In the heart of the chaos, Dr. Evelyn Carter, a brilliant physicist, found herself leading a small group of researchers holed up in a subterranean lab beneath an abandoned university. Her mind, always sharp, was now laser-focused on understanding the alien technology. Though the destruction above was relentless, her team worked tirelessly to analyze fragments of the alien weapons that had fallen to Earth. They needed answers, and quickly. Dr. Carter wasn't just any scientist. Her background in quantum mechanics and electromagnetic fields made her an unlikely candidate for such a role, but her quick thinking and unshakable resolve gave her the courage to act. As she pored over the strange data collected from the wreckage of an alien scout ship, she made a startling discovery. These invaders weren't just technologically advanced. They relied on a power system that could be disrupted with the right kind of electromagnetic pulse. It wasn't much, but it was a spark of hope. Meanwhile, General Michael Reed found himself overseeing the remnants of Earth's military forces in a commandeered underground bunker. His tactical mind, honed over decades of service, quickly began analyzing the alien assault from a new angle. He could see that the invaders' strength came from overwhelming firepower and superior technology, but they lacked one thing: flexibility. The aliens' attacks were precise, calculated, rigid. The humans, on the other hand, had an unparalleled ability to improvise and adapt. Reed began pulling together the fractured military units scattered across the globe. It was clear that Earth's forces would not be able to stand toe-to-toe with the aliens in a direct confrontation, so he began planning a series of guerrilla attacks. Human ingenuity would be the key. They would strike at weak points, disrupt supply lines, and sow confusion among the alien ranks. It wasn't about winning every battle. It was about surviving long enough to learn, adapt, and outsmart them. Back in New York, Sarah, the teacher who had escaped the initial alien onslaught with her son, became an unlikely symbol of resistance. What began as a desperate search for shelter turned into a rallying cry for the people hiding in the city's underground tunnels. Sarah, with her deep knowledge of literature and history, became a natural leader, rallying survivors with words of courage. "If we can hold on," she told them, "we can turn this around. We are smarter, we are more resourceful, and we will not go down without a fight." Sarah's small group grew as more civilians, armed with little more than the knowledge of their environment, joined the resistance. They began to launch hit-and-run attacks on alien patrols, using the city's maze-like subway system and abandoned buildings as cover. They didn't have advanced technology, but they had something far more dangerous: the will to fight for their homes, their families, and their future. The alien invaders, still unaware of the depth of human resilience, began to underestimate their opposition. In their arrogance, they failed to anticipate the wild, unpredictable nature of the human spirit. And it was this very unpredictability that would become humanity's greatest weapon. The aliens thought their victory was inevitable, but what they didn't know was that humanity, in its desperation, was beginning to write its own narrative, one where survival, ingenuity, and unity would prove stronger than even the most advanced alien empire. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and humanity's unlikely heroes were already proving that the greatest strength of all was the ability to fight when no one thought you could. The tide of the war had shifted. Humanity was no longer just cowering beneath alien assault. There was fire in the eyes of its people, and it was in the streets, in the underground bunkers, in the laboratories, everywhere. Dr. Evelyn Carter's discovery of the alien vulnerability had ignited a spark of innovation, and now her research was beginning to pay off. Back in the makeshift lab beneath the abandoned university, Dr. Carter and her team worked tirelessly, building on her initial breakthrough. With the right tools and materials scavenged from alien wreckage, they began creating EMP devices, small but powerful enough to disable the energy shields protecting the alien ships. The breakthrough, though small, was a monumental step forward. Yet it came with a price. The aliens had begun to realize that their technological advantage was being chipped away at, and their countermeasures were already in motion. General Michael Reed, far from giving up, seized upon the growing underground network of resistance fighters. His guerrilla strategy began to take shape: small, coordinated attacks on alien supply lines, sabotage missions, and infiltration operations. Humanity couldn't match the raw firepower of the alien invaders, but what they lacked in technology, they made up for in determination and resourcefulness. Reed's forces, made up of soldiers, civilians, and engineers, began to strike quickly and fade into the shadows. The first successful mission came in the ruins of Chicago. A small band of resistance fighters, led by Lieutenant Maria Cortez, took down an alien communication tower, sending shockwaves through the invaders' chain of command. The tower, which had been responsible for coordinating the alien forces in North America, suddenly went dark. The aliens scrambled to fix the disruption, but not before the humans made their escape. The victory wasn't just tactical, it was symbolic. It proved that the alien forces could be disrupted, that their tight grip on Earth's cities wasn't as unshakable as they'd believed. Elsewhere, in the wreckage of San Francisco, Sarah and her growing resistance cell put their newfound strategy into action. With little more than basic weapons and improvised traps, they began to target alien patrols that roamed the abandoned city, using the knowledge of the terrain to their advantage. A series of well-placed explosives took down a supply convoy, and in another daring mission, Sarah's team used a network of old sewer tunnels to ambush a group of alien soldiers who had no idea they were being stalked. The success of these small-scale missions began to swell the ranks of the resistance. As word spread, more and more people from all walks of life joined the fight. Scientists, mechanics, farmers, and even children, who were too young to fight, contributed in any way they could, scavenging, supplying, and spreading messages of hope. The unity of humanity, once fractured by politics and national interests, began to coalesce into a singular force, determined to drive the invaders from their home. But it wasn't just about the victories. It was about the message humanity was sending. The aliens had underestimated them, believing humans were fragile, primitive creatures with no hope of standing up to such a powerful enemy. Yet every successful mission, every blown-up communication tower, every ambush, told the aliens the same thing. Humanity was not ready to surrender. No matter the odds, no matter the cost, they would fight until the last breath. As Reed's forces and Dr. Carter's team continued to work together, one thing became abundantly clear. Humanity might not be able to win every battle, but they were more than capable of making the alien invaders' conquest a hell of a lot harder than they had ever anticipated. The war had entered a new phase, and this time, it was the aliens who were beginning to question their superiority. The alien forces, once overconfident in their technological superiority, were beginning to unravel. After weeks of relentless resistance from humans, the Overmind, the alien leader, was facing a serious dilemma. Its once unshakable belief that Earth would fall with ease was now shattered. The aliens had never encountered an enemy like humanity. Resourceful, unpredictable, and fiercely determined. The more they pressed, the more resilient the humans became. From the command deck of the flagship, the Overmind watched as its fleet struggled to deal with the human insurgency. Stray EMP pulses from Earth's makeshift weapons were beginning to take a toll, disabling key parts of the alien ships. But it wasn't just the technology that worried the Overmind. It was the human will. Every time one of their ships was damaged or an outpost was sabotaged, the resistance grew stronger. Earth's survivors had turned every small victory into a rallying cry, and each battle made them more determined. What had started as sporadic acts of defiance had now coalesced into a global uprising. Frustration ran high among the alien commanders. Despite their vast technological prowess, they could not predict humanity's next move. The aliens relied on precision and overwhelming force, but humans adapted. They used the alien technology against them, forcing the invaders to rework their strategy entirely. The Overmind ordered its commanders to increase patrols and tighten their grip on key strategic locations, but no matter how tightly they held the noose, the humans always seemed to slip through the cracks. Dr. Carter, deep in her underground lab, had noticed the aliens' shift in tactics. The pulse EMP devices she had helped develop were causing more and more disruption in the alien fleet, but it wasn't enough to win the war. To truly turn the tide, they needed to understand how the Overmind communicated with its fleet. Every successful attack, every disruption, was only a temporary victory. Without disrupting the central command, the aliens would always find a way to regroup and strike back with full force. In a desperate move, Dr. Carter and her team began working on an experimental device, one that could infiltrate and potentially hijack the alien neural network that connected the fleet. The plan was audacious and risky. If they could access the Overmind's communication systems, they could send the entire fleet into disarray. But the device had never been tested under real conditions, and failure could result in the loss of a critical opportunity. Still, Dr. Carter refused to sit idly by. She understood the stakes. Humanity's survival depended on pushing the aliens to the breaking point. Meanwhile, General Reed's guerrilla fighters were growing bolder. The initial skirmishes had become full-fledged assaults on alien strongholds. While the alien forces focused their attention on larger, more critical targets, Reed's forces started sabotaging their less protected supply routes. Small but significant victories continued to pile up, each strike proving that humanity was more than just a nuisance. It was a force to be reckoned with. In a daring mission, Reed's team infiltrated an alien supply base in the middle of the desert. The team disabled the alien weapons stockpile, rendering several of their most powerful weapon systems useless. The aliens were left scrambling, and Reed's forces slipped away before the alien fleet could retaliate. The human resistance was learning fast, and the alien invaders were starting to understand that victory wouldn't come easily. The tension was palpable. The Overmind knew it couldn't underestimate humanity any longer. But its arrogance, its belief in its own superiority, had left it blind to the most powerful force of all: human ingenuity. The question now was whether the Overmind could adapt quickly enough to stop the humans from turning the war in their favor. Humanity's resolve was clear. They wouldn't just fight for survival. They would fight to win. Just as humanity was beginning to gain momentum in the war against the alien invaders, a devastating blow struck. It came not from the skies or from alien weapons, but from within their own ranks. A trusted member of the human military, General William Harkin, a seasoned veteran who had helped lead the resistance, betrayed them in the most shocking way. It began with a message, one sent in the dead of night, under the cover of secrecy. General Harkin had been in direct contact with the aliens for weeks, secretly negotiating his defection in exchange for a promise of power, safety, and a place in the new order the invaders intended to establish. His betrayal wasn't just a matter of personal survival. It was a calculated move that would tip the balance of the war in favor of the alien invaders. The first sign of his treason came when a strategic strike on an alien supply base, planned by General Reed and the resistance, suddenly failed. The humans had made meticulous plans, using their knowledge of the terrain and guerrilla tactics, but when they arrived at the location, it was already occupied by alien forces in greater numbers than expected. The strike was ambushed, and several resistance members lost their lives. Confusion spread quickly. Was this just another alien counterattack? Or was there something more sinister at play? The truth became clear when a recording surfaced, one intercepted from the alien fleet, revealing Harkin's communications with the Overmind. In it, Harkin offered the aliens critical information about Earth's defense strategies, including locations of hidden bases and weaknesses in the human coalition. Worse still, he promised to deliver General Reed himself, alive, as a prize that would ensure the humans' complete surrender. The revelation shattered the human resistance. General Reed, who had become the face of humanity's fight, could hardly comprehend the magnitude of the betrayal. Harkin had been a close friend, a leader he trusted, someone who had fought alongside him in the darkest hours. Now Harkin had become an instrument of the alien forces, and humanity was reeling from the betrayal. For a time, it seemed like the resistance would collapse under the weight of the blow. Morale plummeted. The prospect of surviving against an enemy that now had inside knowledge of their strategies felt almost impossible. But then something remarkable happened. The human spirit, once tested, refused to break. The same resilience that had driven them to fight back in the face of overwhelming odds surged again. Reed, though shaken, refused to let Harkin's betrayal define them. He made a public address to the scattered resistance cells across the globe, reminding them that they had never been defined by the strength of their enemies, but by the strength of their unity. We will not let this defeat us. We fight not just for our survival, but for every soul lost, every life that matters. Together, "We can still win this." His words resonated deeply with the fighters on the front lines. As news of the betrayal spread, something extraordinary happened. Civilians, ordinary people who had joined the fight, stepped up in ways no one could have predicted. They took on new roles, coordinating covert operations, repairing tech, and even organizing escape routes for survivors trapped behind enemy lines. The resistance adapted, pulling together in the face of treachery, and their resolve only strengthened. Though the alien forces had gained crucial intel, the human resistance was far from beaten. It wasn't just about military strategy anymore. It was about something deeper, the fight for freedom, for family, and for the future. And humanity had one thing the aliens didn't: the relentless power of hope. The fight for Earth would continue. It was now more than just a war. It was a battle for the very soul of the planet. In the aftermath of General Harkin's betrayal, humanity's resolve was tested like never before. The resistance had been dealt a crippling blow, but it was also presented with an opportunity for something greater: unity in the face of adversity. The fractured groups that had once operated independently across the globe now knew they had no choice but to come together. The war was no longer just about tactics. It was about fighting for a future that seemed increasingly impossible, but, as General Reed reminded them, was still worth fighting for. Across the war-torn landscape, the human resistance began to reorganize, fueled by a single driving force: hope. The belief that they could still win this, that they could still drive the aliens off Earth, became a unifying thread woven through every mission and every struggle. They had lost battles, they had lost heroes, but they had not lost their humanity. Dr. Evelyn Carter, still working tirelessly in her lab, continued to refine the technology that could give the resistance an edge. Her team of scientists and engineers, though overwhelmed, refused to give in to despair. They worked around the clock, improving on the EMP devices and developing new methods to disrupt the alien fleet. Every bit of progress, no matter how small, was a victory in itself. The alien forces, for all their technological superiority, couldn't predict the ingenuity of humanity. Each failure only made the resistance stronger, more determined. But it wasn't just the scientists who were making a difference. Ordinary people, like Sarah in New York, had taken the fight into their own hands. Her underground network had become a vital component of the resistance, offering shelter, supplies, and intelligence. They didn't have tanks or advanced weapons, but they had something far more valuable: a deep knowledge of their environment and an uncanny ability to strike when and where the aliens least expected it. Sarah, though still haunted by the betrayal of a man she once trusted, found renewed strength in the faces of those around her. Her people had been broken, but not beaten. The turning point came when Dr. Carter and her team successfully developed a device capable of bypassing the alien fleet's communication network. It was a risky maneuver. There was no guarantee it would work, but they had no other choice. If they could disrupt the central control of the alien forces, it could send the entire fleet into chaos. The plan was simple yet dangerous. A small group of operatives would infiltrate an alien communications hub in the heart of what was once Washington, D.C., and deploy the device. If successful, it would sever the alien command structure, causing confusion and disarray throughout their ranks. General Reed, fully aware of the stakes, understood this mission was their best shot at turning the tide. His forces were stretched thin, and resources were scarce. This operation was not just a tactical strike. It was a symbol of humanity's indomitable will to survive. If the device worked, it could cripple the alien invaders' ability to coordinate their forces. But if it failed, the consequences could be disastrous. The hope of the entire resistance rested on this single operation. As the final assault began, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their advanced technology, nor their guerrilla tactics. It was the unyielding strength of their hope. In the face of overwhelming odds, they refused to give up. They had faced betrayal, destruction, and loss, yet the fire of defiance still burned within them. As Reed's team prepared to launch their strike, There was a sense of unity among them, a sense that, no matter what happened, they would never stop fighting for the future of their world. The final battle for Earth was about to begin. The air was thick with tension as Reed's team assembled outside the wreckage of what had once been the heart of Washington, D.C., the once proud city, now a ghost of its former self, lay in ruins with alien patrols sweeping through the area. Their mission was clear: infiltrate the heavily guarded alien communications hub and deploy Dr. Carter's device, which would disrupt the alien command structure and throw their forces into disarray. Reed stood with his small but elite group of operatives, each one handpicked for their courage, skills, and unwavering loyalty to the cause. Among them was Sarah, now hardened by the losses she had witnessed, but fueled by the desire to protect her son and ensure that humanity's future was not one of slavery under alien rule. The group knew this mission could very well be their last, but they were willing to risk everything. Failure meant extinction, but success meant a fighting chance. As they approached the perimeter of the alien base, the sound of distant explosions echoed in the air, a reminder that the world they once knew had changed forever. The alien ships loomed overhead, their ominous forms casting shadows across the shattered streets. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, humanity's resolve was unwavering. They had come too far to turn back now. The team moved in silence, using the ruins as cover as they neared the communication hub. Dr. Carter's device, a small, highly advanced electromagnetic pulse generator, was their only hope. It had taken weeks of sleepless nights and countless trials to build, but it was humanity's best shot at crippling the alien invaders. Once activated, it would overload the aliens' central communication network, cutting them off from their fleet and causing chaos across their ranks. But as they neared their target, an unexpected challenge arose. Alien drones, which had been patrolling the area, detected movement. The team barely had time to react before they were under fire. The sound of blaster shots filled the air, and the team scattered, seeking cover behind the remnants of a collapsed building. Reed's heart pounded in his chest as he fired back, using every ounce of his training to keep the drones at bay. The situation was quickly spiraling out of control. They had underestimated the aliens' vigilance. "Keep moving," Reed shouted over the comms, his voice firm despite the chaos. "We can't let them call reinforcements." Sarah, her eyes set with grim determination, led the charge. Her instincts kicked in, and she ducked beneath falling debris, throwing a grenade at a group of approaching drones. The explosion rocked the ground, sending alien forces into disarray, buying them a few precious moments. The group advanced, each step heavier than the last as they neared the communication hub. But just as they reached the perimeter, a low, ominous hum vibrated through the air. The alien reinforcements, realizing they had been ambushed, had begun to converge on their location. Time was running out. Reed's mind raced as he thought of their options. The only way to ensure the success of the mission was to get the device into the heart of the alien command center, where it would have the maximum impact. But the entrance was heavily guarded, and the clock was ticking. Without hesitation, Reed made a decision that would change everything. "I'll hold them off. You get the device inside," Reed ordered, his voice resolute. "You have 5 minutes. Make it count." The team hesitated, but Sarah was the first to move. "We're not leaving you behind," she said firmly. "We fight together." Reed nodded, his heart swelling with pride for these men and women who had become more than just comrades. They had become his family, and he would do whatever it took to ensure they succeeded. With a final glance at his team, Reed took position near a crumbling wall and fired his weapon at the advancing alien soldiers. The battle was on. With their backs to the wall, humanity's final stand had begun. The battle for Washington, D.C. was a brutal, chaotic clash. Reed, alone at the front, poured every ounce of his remaining strength into holding off the advancing alien forces. The noise of blaster fire, explosions, and the relentless hum of alien technology filled the air, but Reed's focus never wavered. Each alien soldier he took down bought his team a few more seconds. He could feel the weight of every moment, knowing that failure was not an option. Meanwhile, Sarah and the rest of the team had made it to the heart of the alien communications hub. The building's outer walls were fortified, but the team's determination was stronger than the steel and alien technology surrounding them. Sarah and Lieutenant Maria Cortez led the way, while the others cleared a path, taking down drones and alien soldiers who tried to stop their advance. The tension was palpable. Every moment felt like an eternity, but they were close. Reed's heart raced as he counted down the seconds in his mind. He had given his team a 5-minute window to deploy the device and disable the alien command structure. Every second felt precious, and he knew they couldn't afford to waste any of them. As the alien soldiers closed in, Reed fought with a desperation he hadn't felt before. The fate of the world rested on the shoulders of those moving toward the hub. "Come on, come on," Reed muttered to himself, eyes scanning the advancing horde. He fired another shot, ducking behind cover as the aliens returned fire. Inside the communications hub, Sarah, Maria, and the team reached the control center. The alien structure was both alien and familiar, a blend of advanced technology and unfamiliar design. The center was alive with energy, humming with the power of the invaders' operations. In the midst of it all, a single terminal stood at the heart of the room, surrounded by complex alien machinery. Dr. Carter's device, small but powerful, was the key. Sarah and Maria set to work immediately, attaching it to the central terminal. Their hands trembled with the weight of the task. Every second was a gamble. Every click of a button, another step closer to either victory or disaster. The device had to sync perfectly with the alien technology to disable their communications without triggering a catastrophic chain reaction. As Sarah's fingers hovered over the terminal, a sudden burst of energy from the alien network crackled, filling the room with an electric hum. The device began to power up. They were so close. "Hurry," Maria urged, glancing nervously at the door. Alien reinforcements were almost certainly on their way. Sarah, her mind racing, slammed the final button. A surge of light shot through the room as the device activated, sending a pulse of electromagnetic energy that rippled through the alien network. For a moment, everything went quiet. The air seemed to hold its breath. Then it happened. The alien communication systems faltered and then collapsed. A wave of disarray spread across the battlefield. The once coordinated alien forces began to lose contact with one another, their strategies crumbling as ships drifted out of sync, and troops were left without orders. The Resistance's small victories had built to this moment. The alien invaders were in chaos. Reed, who had been fighting desperately outside, saw the shift in the alien forces. The organized attack stopped, replaced by confusion and disorder. His heart pounded as the once dominant alien soldiers faltered, giving the human forces a glimmer of hope. "Reed, it's working." Sarah's voice crackled over the comms, and Reed smiled, even as he continued to fight. The tide had turned. The chaos was palpable. Alien forces were disoriented, their once unyielding discipline now shattered. The remaining human fighters, seeing the sudden shift, pressed their advantage. Reed's team, exhausted but fueled by hope, pushed forward, now with the support of a reinvigorated resistance. The aliens were no longer an unstoppable force. They were vulnerable, scattered, and desperate. The humans, united in their struggle, surged forward with newfound strength. The final battle for Earth was far from over, but in that moment, a crucial step had been taken. The aliens' grip on Earth was weakening, and humanity's fight for survival had transformed into a fight for victory. As Reed and his team pressed on, they realized one undeniable truth. Humanity would not only survive, it would prevail. The dawn of a new era was rising, an era where Earth's greatest weapon was not technology or strength, but the unbreakable power of hope.